Welcome to MMAPlay365. I'm Newsome and I'm here to recap the Baze AI predictions from last weekend's event at UFC Vegas 48 from that AI perspective. So it was a very similar event from a numbers and a percentage perspective as it was the week before. You know, it wasn't hitting the numbers that we were doing during our testing phase at around 68%. It was a little bit lower, but there's a couple of fights that's definitely worth mentioning, including a hidden gem, which was unveiled last weekend with the AI, so I'll talk about that very shortly. But the first fight that we move on to straight away is actually Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Buckley. I actually picked Alhassan as an underdog. He was the underdog, the dog of the week at MMAPlay365, the handicapper dog of the week. And actually Baze AI had Alhassan at around 52% to win the fight, which is roughly around a minus 110 odds implied. But Alhassan was a plus 150 underdog, so there was value there for sure. The fight was a split decision. I've got no complaints over the split decision. I actually scored it to Buckley, but on any other given night, it could have been Alhassan picking that decision win up, that split decision win up. So that's just one fight, just straight away off the bat. You know, Alhassan was plus 150. The AI had him at a minus 110 odds implied, roughly around 52% to win the fight. So there was value there. It nearly came through, fell short very slightly, but that's just one value piece in that fight. Then the next fight to talk about, and this one super interesting. I went head to head with the AI again. I had 3 units on Nikolas Motta to win the fight against Jim Miller, but actually the AI had Jim Miller at 58% to win the fight, which odds implied is minus 140. Jim Miller was actually around plus 140 if you wanted to bet on that value side of what the AI was picking. And listen, Jim Miller absolutely smoked Nikolas Motta in that fight. He looked great from start to finish. I thought Motta was going to absolutely run through Jim Miller and knock him out potentially in the first round. So the AI knew what it was doing. I went head to head with the AI. It beat me. You know, it is what it is, but at 58% picking Jim Miller, who, like I say, odds implied should have been minus 140 according to the AI, who was actually around plus 140, plenty of value there. I took a loss against the AI, and we move on to next week. But then the gem that I want to speak about in this fight card, in this recap from last week, was actually in the co-main event with the Kyle Daukaus fight. Now, Kyle Daukaus was actually 38.5% likely to win via submission in round 1. Now 38% or 38.5% actually is odds implied is around plus 250. But if you looked at the betting line for that prop, for that round method of victory prop, it was actually plus 850 to actually come through. So there was a plus 850 betting line that the AI was saying that it had a 38.5% chance of winning. So anybody that bet that not only had a ton of value, but cashed a really nice big ticket as well. And this sort of stuff happens in every single fight card, it seems. There's always one little gem in a particular fight that needs unveiling, that needs finding. And that was last week's. Like I said, 38% plus 250 odds implied, and it was plus 850 on the betting line. So crazy value. That was the unveiled gem of the betting card last week, of the predictions, and we move on to next week. So thank you all for listening. The Baze AI predictions, we give one free pick away every single week. We put a poll out on Twitter for you guys to choose which fight you want, and then once you've chosen which fight, we'll put it on the Baze AI page on the MMAPlay365 website, and you'll get that full prediction, for the full Baze AI predictions for that fight. We'll break down another recap from this week's card next week. We'll see you next week.